all made silly statements to someone and then looked at them and said, "It's only kidding"? How about Yah? Do we dare look at him concerning a promise that we have made and say, "Oh, I was only joking. I was only kidding"? Hi, this is Barry Phillips with 10-Minute Torah, day number 2 of Matot Masei. Double Torah portion. We're in the Matot part, still in Bamidbar, Numbers chapter 30. Let's begin with verse 3. If a woman vows a vow to Yahweh and binds herself by some agreement while in her father's house in her youth, and her father hears her vow and the agreement by which she has bound herself, and her father has kept silent towards her, then all of her vows shall stand, and every agreement with which she has bound herself stands. But if her father forbids her on the day that he hears, then none of her vows nor her agreements by which she has bound herself stand, and Yahweh pardons her because her father has forbidden her. But if she at all belongs to a husband, while bound by her vows or by a rash utterance from her lips by which she has bound herself, and her husband hears it, and he has kept silent towards her on the day that he hears, then her vows shall stand, and her agreements by which she has bound herself do stand. But if her husband forbids her on the day that he hears it, then he has nullified her vow which she has vowed, and the rash utterance of her lips by which she has bound herself, and Yahweh pardons her. Upon reading this, one might immediately say, well, the Torah seems to be saying that men are better than women. Let's not go down that trail. It's a fruitless endeavor. Yah values women very, very highly. He values men very, very highly. Each have a particular role that he has designed for them to work in, to labor in, to be fruit-bearing in. In this instance, it's not about the subjugation or the belittling of women as much as it is about a husband or a father's accountability for what's taking place in his home, as we discussed yesterday. The idea is that a father guards over his daughters. He protects them. We all make rash statements. We all say things that we don't mean. But Yeshua did warn us that out of the overabundance of our heart, the mouth is speaking. So sometimes we speak foolishly because foolishness can be hidden in our heart. What Yah is saying to us is, as a father, if I have a daughter living with me in my home, or as a husband, my wife is with me in my home, and I hear them out of their frustration, out of anxiety, out of hurt, out of a lot of different negative style emotions, make a rash vow, then I have the authority to nullify that vow so that it is not binding on them. I'll give you an example, and I know many women to say such a thing. They look at themselves in the mirror, they get off the scales, and they're frustrated with themselves for whatever perceived reason. I'm never going to eat again. I promise you, I'll never eat again. I don't ever need another bite of food. In American culture, we just let that slide and never think anything about it. But we have just uttered a rash, unfounded, nonsensical thing out of our mouths. And a husband, spiritually speaking, needs to say, Father, I nullify that vow. Now, why does it even matter? Because every idle word out of our mouth, we're going to be held accountable for. What you say matters, particularly in the case of a vow. Rabbinical thought, and this is very powerful thinking here, Rabbinical thought says that you and I have our existence in whatever environment, family situation, whatever work situation that we do, because Yah selects us and puts us in certain places to allow His presence and His authority, His ability, His consciousness, if you will, to flow through us and into that environment. Yeshua said it this way: you are the light of the world and the salt of the earth. You are to have influencing presence wherever you go and in whatever you're endeavoring to accomplish. So there are times that we would take on a vow upon ourselves to enhance that ability and our credibility. For example, a Nazarite would say, I take a vow for the next number of, in the period of time, days, months, weeks, years, that I will not cut my hair, I will not drink of the fruit of the vine, I will not eat of the fruit of the vine. I'm not going to attend to death in any manifestation, in order that I may become set apart and separate to Yah at a higher level. And he follows through on that vow. What has he done? What has she done? They've increased the intensity of Yah's presence and awareness within them to be diffused outwardly. People do this all the time through fasting and prayer. I'm not going to eat. I'm not going to be entertained. I'm going to set myself to more of an isolated existence for hours, days, weeks, in order that I may gain a greater intensity of Yah's presence. So a vow is undertaken to increase the benefit of Yah's presence in and around and through us. It is for righteous purposes. When we foolishly make vows about me, it's all about the flesh. It's all about perceptions. When we're just speaking candidly off the top of our head and we're not meaning what we say, Yah nevertheless listens to our words, and for our words, we're going to be held accountable. Therefore, it is the role of the one that He has placed in authority in the home, the husband, the father, to oversee his home. Vows may be made that we're not aware of. Once we learn of them, we must determine whether they are standing or not. Sometimes a woman will say, I'm going to abstain from food for this period of time for fasting. I make a vow to do so. The husband or the father would encourage her in that. Stand by her, support her. No, don't sneak a cookie. Stand by your vow. And so it's not, the world wants to turn it into a male-female competition type thing. That's not what's going on at all. Now, there's a little interesting side note here I want to share with you. And that is that in regards to the word of a female vow, Nedariyah, it is spelled here with an added hey at the end, taking the same consonants in the Hebrew language that is given there. Let me see if I can find this real quick. It ends in the letter hey. Spelling it backwards, it spells Ha Yarden, the Jordan. I find it interesting that the way that Israel went into the land is that Yah led them around the back way. And they crossed the Yarden, should we say, backwards. And in doing so, it was Hayardin. It was the Nedariyah. It was the counseling of the vows. How many rash vows did Yeshua's bride, Am Israel, make in the wilderness out of their frustrations, out of their anger, out of their bitterness? And in bringing them across that mikvah of waters, He renounced it. Yeshua, may You cleanse us from the rash words of our mouth. May You rise up in authority and negate the things that we say foolishly. Watch them words today. We'll see you again tomorrow. Until then, shalom.